All right, let's dive into a story that's about way more than just sex toys. This is really a story about culture, about old colonial laws, and about one man's incredible fight for personal freedom in a place you would absolutely never expect.
Okay, so picture this, Trinidad and Tobago. When you think of Trinidad, you probably think of Carnival, right? This massive festival of just pure energy, sensuality, and total public expression. It feels like a culture that's super comfortable with the human body.
And yet in that exact same country, the simple act of bringing a vibrator through customs was against the law. I mean, how wild is that? That's the paradox, the huge contradiction. That's at the very heart of our story today.
But this is the story of the man who looked at that contradiction and said, nope, not on my watch. He was a rebel with a very specific cause, and he decided to take on the entire state to basically redefine the line between public morality and private pleasure.
So, to really get what he was up against, we first need to understand the kind of strange world he was operating in. Let's call it the Trinidad paradox.
So, on one side, you've got the culture, right? That vibrant, anything-goes energy of Carnival. But on the other side, you've got the law, a super rigid legal system left over from British colonial rule, filled with these old-school Victorian ideas about policing what people do. It's in that gap, between public freedom and private restriction, that our story really gets going. And right in the middle of this cultural and legal whirlwind is one guy, Dr. Giriraj Ramnanan, but pretty much the whole nation just knows him as Dr. Raj. Now, here's what makes Dr. Raj so interesting. He's not your typical adult store owner. The man holds a doctorate in sexology. And that piece of paper, that was his secret weapon. It was genius. It let him completely reframe the whole conversation, turning his products from so-called indecent articles into essential health aids. And his strategy was just brilliant. First, he medicalized everything, turning something taboo into a form of treatment. Second, get this, he had a degree in accounting, so his business was built to last through years and years of legal fights. Third, for 19 years he had a radio show called Explosion, making it normal to talk about sex. And finally, he got that in a small place like Trinidad, discretion wasn't just a bonus, it was everything. Which led him to this masterpiece of a retail strategy, which you could call the Mullet model. You know, business in the front, party in the back. Customers would just walk into what looked like a totally normal lingerie shop. That gave him cover. Nobody knew why you were really there. You had to actually ask the staff to get access to the back room, where all the adult items were kept private and safe. And this right here just nails why he was so successful. Like a customer said, the final step was just as crucial. Every single purchase was put in a plain, boring bag. You could walk out of there looking like you just bought some groceries. In a society where gossip can be a huge deal, that guarantee of privacy was the whole game. But, you know, an operation this clever couldn't fly under the radar forever. Dr. Raj's success put him on a direct collision course with the government, and that led to a legal showdown that would change the whole country. The state's weapon of choice was the Customs Act, this dusty old law that banned importing indecent or obscene articles. But here's the catch. The law never actually said what indecent or obscene even meant. That ambiguity gave individual customs officers a ton of power to just decide what they personally thought was okay or not. So things really boiled over in late 2017. Customs grabs 4 of his shipments. A year later, nothing's happened, so Dr. Raj sues them, saying they're just stalling. Then it gets even more intense when they seize a sex mannequin. All of this was setting the stage for a final showdown in the High Court in July 2020. And the stakes were definitely real. Just those first few seizures in 2017 were worth over $1,000. We're talking vibrators, penis pumps, all sorts of things just sitting in legal limbo. So Dr. Raj's legal argument was sharp and it was direct. He basically accused the state of taking his property and then, in his own amazing words, pussyfooting around, just holding his stuff forever without actually charging him with anything, which meant he couldn't even defend himself in court. This bold move forced the court to deal with a really fundamental question that, honestly, nobody had wanted to answer for decades. The whole entire case boiled down to this one question. In a modern country, who gets to decide what is and isn't obscene? Who is the ultimate judge of morality? And the judge's answer was so simple, so powerful, and just a total revolution. He said the power to make that call belongs to a court of law, a magistrate, not some random customs officer working at the port. This ruling changed everything. I mean, first, it meant customs officers couldn't be judge, jury, and executioner anymore. Second, it meant adult toys weren't automatically illegal. And third, it made the government's tactic of just grabbing stuff and holding it forever completely unlawful. That old colonial law, it was basically toothless now.
So after winning this massive legal war, you'd think Dr. Raj would just go back to running a shop, right? Nope. He evolved, and he cemented his legacy in a way that I promise you, nobody saw coming.
If you look back at his whole career, you can see this three-part strategy. He used medicine and media to make his products seem legitimate. He used the courtroom to literally change the law of the land. And then he used culture, music, and a museum to weave himself into the very fabric of Trinidadian society.
That's right. The man opened the Caribbean's first ever erotic art museum. He launched a successful music career as a chutney soca star, becoming part of the party scene. He went from being this controversial shop owner to a celebrated and honestly kind of beloved cultural figure.
So what's the big takeaway here? Dr. Raj absolutely won the legal war. He changed the laws of an entire nation, but the fact that his shops still need those discreet back rooms and plain plastic bags, well, that tells you something really important. The cultural war for open, honest acceptance, that's far from over.